Hey guys, LevelCap here, and welcome to another episode of This Week in Gaming. Today we're taking a look at new Cyberpunk 2077 gameplay, a new patch for Battlefield 5, and much more. If you haven't already, subscribe and turn on notifications to catch the next week's episode. A new trailer for the upcoming sci-fi RPG Cyberpunk 2077 was released during an official live stream event. The trailer and other footage released by various gaming press outlets showcases the game's melee, shooting, driving, and other mechanics. It also demonstrates the game's brain dance mode. This is similar to the detective vision in games like Rocksteady Batman games and Detroit Become Human. You can sift through a record feed of everything the target saw/did to find clues and details. It's sort of like Watch Dogs, where you hack into surrounding networks and devices to get different perspectives and new information. Some other gameplay details include how your character gets their start in the game. Apparently, you'll get to choose some details about your character's backstory that affect where your journey through the game begins. As for Cyberpunk's PC version, we've known that it would support NVIDIA's ray tracing technology for a while, but we have new details about exactly what features it utilizes. Ray-traced diffusion illumination, reflections, and ambient occlusion will all be supported. The new trailer's footage is likely running with all of these features disabled, so the final game might end up actually looking even better than it already does in the current footage. Now, as for what kind of crazy hardware you might need to run the game with RTX on, it does support DLSS 2.0, which is a massive performance boosting option. Cyberpunk is obviously designed to be a next-gen game, so I won't expect blazing performance with today's hardware, but it'll still be interesting to see what we can do. Overall, the new footage and details are really promising, and I do think it's safe to say that everyone expects Cyberpunk 2077 to be a massive game considering the company's history. The new trailer does a lot to make people think it'll live up to those expectations. Regardless, I can't wait to see it for myself. It debuts on November 19th for PC, PlayStation 4, and Xbox One. It'll also be compatible with next-gen consoles when they launch. Battlefield 5 got a surprise update this week to address issues caused by the previous update. While new content like maps and weapons won't be coming to Battlefield 5 basically ever, technical support and bug fixes are still in the works. The update fixes numerous issues with the new KS-1/43 sniper rifle being inaccurate. It also addressed some problems with the broken heads-up display elements and missing cosmetics, and fixed up some bugs with Provence. One issue that wasn't mentioned in the patch notes but seems to have been resolved is flickering level of detail issues. You may have seen this when using the top gunner of a tank or standing still on a map. Basically, the high quality and low quality versions of models and textures would flicker between one another. Another area you may have seen this issue is the end of round screen, where soldier models look low resolution or poorly textured. The good news is I didn't spot any of these issues with the latest update. Hopefully this is permanently fixed and not just a fluke of this recording. Despite being in the middle of a new season, Apex Legends just got one of its most significant updates ever. It makes sweeping changes to several legends. Aside from map changes, pretty much every legend's abilities have been tweaked. Lifeline's passive is now the ability to revive down teammates with her healing bot. Her tactical cooldown is down to 45 seconds from 60, and her ultimate now contains more items. Octane's stim and ultimate both got some big buffs. His stim now removes impaired effects, and his max sprint speed has been increased by 10%. Also, Octane's jump pad now lets players double jump. You can also change directions more easily while in mid-jump. Wraith's phase walk now takes 1.25 seconds to enable, up from 0.4 seconds. While casting it, she has a 20% move speed penalty. It doesn't affect her when placing a phase portal though. She also gets a 30% move speed boost once phase walk is actually active. It also lasts an extra second and has its cooldown reduced by 10 seconds. The distance of Wraith's phase portal has also been reduced by 25%. The last of the major changes were made to Wattson. Her fences now last 90 seconds instead of, well, forever, but she can only have 3 of them active at a time. Other legends also get some tweaks, but I'll leave the patch notes below for you to catch up on the rest. These changes are some of the bigger shifts the game's meta has seen in a long time. It's not a night and day difference, but it's sure to mix things up quite a bit. In other Apex news, EA are apparently launching the game's mobile version before the end of the year. It might be a beta launch with a full release happening next year. Crossplay support is coming to Apex in the fall between PC and console, so it's likely the mobile version will launch around then. That said, there's been no word if crossplay with mobile will be supported. We don't even know if it'll be a direct port or not. A beta for the new CROSSFIRE game launched this week on Xbox One. For those of you that don't know, CROSSFIRE is a game from 2007 that has something like 600 million users. It's basically the Chinese version of Counter-Strike. Its developers announced plans last year to develop a sequel, a massive overhaul for the game, and even a movie set in the game's universe. CROSSFIRE X is the first of those new endeavors to launch, and it looks like a pretty modern update to the core game. Right now, it only offers a few maps and modes, but it joins the slim list of tactical console shooters. No word on a PC or PlayStation 4 version as of yet. At some point, it will be getting a proper single-player campaign developed by Remedy of Alan Wake and Control. For now, the beta is limited to multiplayer content only. Despite mixed reviews and some review bombing, The Last of Us Part 2 has skyrocketed to 4 million copies sold in its first 3 days. This makes it the fastest selling PlayStation 4 exclusive ever. The previous record was set by Spider-Man, which sold 3.3 million copies in the same time span. As for the future of The Last of Us 2, there are no plans for DLC content, according to the game's creative director in a recent interview. However, there is a chance we might be getting a Last of Us multiplayer title in the future. Fueling this speculation is the game's creative director playing coy about multiplayer content for the game in the same interview. Naughty Dog canceled their multiplayer plans for Part 2 last summer. At that time, their reasoning was it had become too big to sustain development alongside the game's massive single-player campaign. When they announced the cancellation, they hinted that it might be turned into a standalone release. In a big surprise, Microsoft announced that their live streaming platform Mixer would be getting shut down. The decision to close Mixer seemed like it came out of the blue at first. It was made without informing anyone except the highest profile creators on the platform. But later in the week, Microsoft also announced that they were closing down their retail stores as well. Despite attracting some of Twitch's most popular streamers with lucrative contracts, Mixer failed to grow as much as it wanted and was considered bottom of the rung for live streaming platforms. A tidal wave of sexual assault and racism allegations shook the gaming industry this week. Dozens, if not hundreds of victims, mostly women, came forward with stories, evidence, and claims of harassment and misconduct aimed at streamers, YouTubers, game developers, and more. In response to the wave of allegations, many companies and creators have come out in support of the victims and rallied against their abusers. What remains to be seen is if the companies involved will be held accountable, as many were outed for covering up and suppressing these allegations in the past. Oculus is discontinuing their Go headset line. This was a line of headsets designed mainly for watching movies and other content made for VR. It lacked full motion tracking, making it an inferior experience with VR games. Demand for VR headsets skyrocketed following the announcement of Half-Life Alyx by Valve. Oculus's budget-friendly Quest headset sold like wildfire as a result. Unlike the Go, it offers full motion tracking and is priced at a very reasonable $400. They'll be doubling down on support and future development for the Quest. Meanwhile, Go users won't lose access to their existing content, but its storefront will stop accepting new content in December. In our final story this week, CSGO is getting a pretty major anti-cheat update. Valve launched a beta branch that checks for active programs currently installed or running on your PC and won't allow you on official servers if a banned program is detected. It's a similar approach to solutions that Valorant and Easy anti-cheat supported games use, but the full extent of CSGO's implementation is still being worked out. The game utilizes Valve's VAC anti-cheat solution, which already detects and bans cheat apps. The new approach is likely much more thorough and probably invasive as well. And that wraps it up for today's episode of This Week in Gaming. As always, guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you next time. This is LevelCap signing off.